The stars were quiet that day, or at least they seemed so from the cockpit of Leo's small ship. He had been a pilot for many years, flying routes between far-off stations, carrying supplies, and sometimes exploring new sectors. This mission was supposed to be simple: scan the empty region near the border of human space, record the data, and go home. Leo leaned back in his seat and tapped the control panel. The hum of the ship's engines was steady. The space ahead was dark, broken only by tiny silver dots of distant suns. His mind was already drifting toward what he might eat. When he got back to the station, then the sound came, a sharp, repeating beep. It was the emergency signal alarm. Leo frowned and checked the screen. A red light blinked on the navigation map. The source of the distress signal was far off the planned route, near a system marked as unknown. His orders didn't say anything about going there. He should have reported it and waited. But something inside him stirred. Someone's in trouble, he muttered to himself. And I'm the closest ship. He tapped a few keys, changing course. The engines roared a little louder as his ship turned toward the unknown system. It took nearly an hour to reach the signal's origin. As he approached, Leo saw a green planet below, its surface streaked with silver rivers and purple clouds. The distress beacon was coming from somewhere on the ground. He scanned for life signs and froze. The readings showed hundreds of life forms, but they were not human. They were tall, thin, and their energy patterns were unlike anything in human records. Aliens, Leo whispered. He had heard of alien races before, of course, but most stayed far away from human space. This was the first time he had detected one so close. As he prepared to land, another alert flashed on his screen. Large energy bursts, the kind made by weapons. The signal was urgent. This was not a simple call for help. Something dangerous was happening down there. Leo guided the ship through the thick clouds and broke through into bright daylight. What he saw made him grip the controls tightly. Below was a sprawling city of strange, crystal-like buildings. Fires burned in some areas. Creatures with dark armor were attacking the streets, firing bright bursts of energy. Civilians, tall, elegant beings with pale silver skin, were running for safety. The distress signal guided him to a tall tower at the center of the city. A landing pad opened as if waiting for him. He touched down, and before he could even step out, a group of alien guards rushed toward him. Their armor was curved and smooth, colored like polished stone. They carried long weapons that glowed faintly. One stepped forward, speaking in a language Leo didn't understand, but a small translation device on his wrist quickly changed the sounds into words he could follow. "You are human?" the guard asked, surprised. "Yes," Leo replied. "I got your distress signal." The guard looked at the others, then nodded. "Come quickly. The Queen needs you." Inside the tower, the air was warm and filled with a faint scent like flowers. The walls glowed softly, as though made of living crystal. Leo was led into a grand hall where an alien woman sat on a throne of silver vines. She was tall and graceful, her eyes bright with worry. "I'm Queen Alara," she said through the translator. "My daughter, Princess Minna, is missing. The enemy attacked during a celebration, and in the chaos, they took her. Our scouts saw them take her into the wild lands to the west. We have tried to follow, but their traps have cost us many lives." Leo listened carefully. He had never been asked to help a royal family before, especially not one from another species. But the fear in the Queen's voice was something any parent could understand. "I will help find her," Leo said without hesitation. The Queen's eyes softened, though her face still showed worry. "You would risk your life for someone you did not know." Leo gave a small smile. "She's a child. She needs to be safe. That's enough reason." The Queen ordered her guards to prepare a search group. They brought strange-looking gear, a mix of armor and tools made of crystal and metal. One guard handed Leo a small device. "This will help you breathe in some parts of the forest," he explained. "The air there can be dangerous to outsiders." As they moved toward the exit, the ground shook. In the distance, an explosion sent smoke rising above the city. The enemy was still attacking. Time was running out. Leo stepped onto the open streets, the alien guards forming a protective circle around him. The city's beauty was scarred by the battle, shattered crystal walls, broken bridges, and frightened citizens hiding in doorways. Yet the people still watched him, the lone human among their defenders. They reached the edge of the city where a large gate stood open. Beyond it lay the wild lands, dense forests of blue and green, filled with towering plants and strange calls of unseen creatures. Leo looked at the trees, then at the guards. "We find her fast," he said. "No delays." The lead guard nodded. "Our scouts believe the enemy camp is 2 days' journey west, but their paths are filled with traps. We must be careful." Leo adjusted the strap of his gear. "Careful." "Yes, but quick. Every minute we waste gives them more time." The guards exchanged looks. This human spoke with a sharpness and certainty they were not used to. It gave them a spark of hope. As they stepped into the forest, the air grew cooler and thick with mist. Leo kept his eyes sharp, scanning for signs of movement. The sound of distant growls reminded him they were far from safe, somewhere ahead. Princess Minna was out there, scared, alone, and in danger. Leo didn't know her, but he knew one thing for certain. He would find her, no matter what it took. And as they moved deeper into the alien forest, Leo felt the strange weight of the mission. This was no longer just about a distress signal. This was about trust between two worlds, and he was the one carrying it. The alien forest felt alive. The trees were tall and twisted, their leaves glowing faintly in the mist. Strange shapes moved in the shadows, and sounds like whispers drifted through the air. Leo walked at the front with the lead guard, a tall alien named Varine. The rest of the guards followed closely, their crystal armor reflecting bits of soft blue light. "This forest watches us," Varine said quietly. Scanning the trees, Leo glanced at him. "You mean there are animals? Not just animals." Varine replied, "The plants here react to movement. Some are harmless, some are not." Leo nodded. He had seen many strange worlds before, but this one felt different, as if every leaf, every stone, was aware of their presence. They moved carefully, avoiding patches of ground where the soil looked as smooth or wet. Varine explained that such spots could be sinkholes or covered pits made by the enemy. A few hours into the journey, they reached a narrow bridge made of vines stretched over a deep ravine. The bridge swayed in the wind, creaking under their weight. Leo stepped onto it first. "If it can hold me, it can hold all of us," he said, moving slowly. Halfway across, he noticed a strange shimmer on the vines. "Wait," Leo called back. "Something's wrong here." He knelt and found a thin, nearly invisible cord tied to the vines. It was connected to a crystal device hidden in the side of the bridge. His instincts told him it was a trap. Leo carefully cut the cord. A second later, the device fell into the ravine and exploded in a burst of green energy. The guards froze, shocked. Varine looked at Leo with new respect. "Your eyes are sharp, human." Leo shrugged. "Humans survive by noticing small things. Small things save lives." The group crossed safely, but the air ahead grew thicker and the forest darker. Now, faint cries echoed through the mist, too faint to tell if they were animal calls or something worse. One of the younger guards whispered, "Could that be the princess?" Varine shook his head. "We cannot be sure. The enemy uses sound tricks to confuse and mislead." Leo felt his jaw tighten. The enemy was clever, using fear and deception as weapons. He knew that meant Mina's rescue would not be simple. By nightfall, they reached a small clearing where they decided to rest. The alien guards formed a circle, keeping watch while Leo checked his gear. He had a small ration pack, a scanner, and a short-range comms unit. None of it could replace speed and alertness. Varine handed him a flask of clear liquid from the crystal springs. "Safe for you to drink." Leo took a sip. The water was cool and slightly sweet, unlike anything on Earth. "Thanks," he said. As the night deepened, the forest sounds changed. The gentle hum of insects faded, replaced by deep, rhythmic thumps in the distance. "What is that?" Leo asked. Varine's face darkened. "Hunters, large creatures. They usually do not come near this part of the forest unless they are driven." Here by something else, the group stayed alert. At one point, the thumping grew louder. But then it faded again. Still, Leo could not sleep much. His thoughts kept returning to Minna, somewhere out there, frightened and alone. At dawn, they continued west. The mist lifted, revealing more of the alien landscape. Towering flowers the size of buildings swayed in the wind, pools of glowing water reflected the strange sky. It might have been beautiful if not for the constant danger. Suddenly, one of the guards ahead raised a hand. Tracks, he said. They all gathered around. The tracks were small, much smaller than the guards' feet, and pressed lightly into the damp ground. Leo crouched to inspect them. They're fresh, he said. Maybe only a few hours old. Vareen nodded. They matched the princess's size. But look here, another set, larger, enemy boots. The group's pace quickened. The path wound through dense brush, and soon they came to a small stream on the other side. Leo saw something caught in a bush, a strip of soft, pale fabric. He picked it up and held it out. This yours? He asked Vareen. Varen's eyes widened. It's part of the princess's ceremonial robe. She was wearing it when she vanished. The discovery gave them new energy. But it also meant they were getting close to the enemy. Everyone moved more quietly now, avoiding loose branches and dry leaves. After an hour, they spotted movement ahead. Dark armored figures moved through the forest, carrying long weapons. There were 4 of them, and between them, a small figure struggled. A child with pale silver skin and long hair. Minna, Vareen breathed. Leo's pulse quickened. How far to their camp? Not far. They may be taking her to a guarded position. Leo thought quickly. If we wait until they reach the camp, rescuing her will be much harder. We need to strike before that. Vareen hesitated. They are armed and dangerous. We do not have numbers on our side. We don't need numbers, Leo replied. We need surprise. The group followed at a distance until the path narrowed between 2 large crystal boulders. Leo signaled for the guards to stop. We hit them here, he whispered. To from the left. To from the right. I'll draw their attention. Before anyone could argue, Leo stepped out into the path. Hey, he called loudly. The enemy soldiers turned in shock. In that split second, the guards rushed in from both sides. Energy weapons flashed, the sound sharp and electric. Leo grabbed one soldier's arm and twisted, forcing the weapon away. Another guard pulled Minna to safety. She clung to Vareen, eyes wide with fear. But the fight wasn't over. One soldier fired at Leo, the shot grazing his shoulder. Pain burnt. But Leo kept moving, grabbing a fallen branch and swinging it hard, knocking the weapon away. Within moments, the enemy was down, either stunned or fleeing. Vareen looked at Leo, breathing hard. You took quite a risk. Leo glanced at Minna, who was still holding tightly to the guard. Worth it, he said. But before they could celebrate, Varen's expression grew grim. We have a bigger problem. The ones we fought are only scouts. The main force will come when they learn Minna is gone. Leo knew what that meant. Their journey back would be even more dangerous than the one here. And the enemy would not stop until they reclaimed the princess. He adjusted his gear and nodded toward the path. Then we move fast. We don't give them the chance. With Minna safe for now, the group began the long journey back, each step heavy with the knowledge that the real fight was still ahead. The forest seemed darker now. The mist had returned, curling between the trees like silent fingers. Every sound felt sharper, the rustle of leaves, the crunch of footsteps, the distant cry of unseen creatures. Leo walked near the front, his eyes scanning the shadows. Princess Minna stayed close to Vareen, the alien guard captain. While the other guards formed a protective circle around them, they had to move fast. Vareen had been clear. The enemy scouts they fought earlier would report back. Soon, a larger force would be hunting them. For the first hour, the group kept a steady pace, following the same path they had taken into the forest. But Leo's instincts told him the enemy wouldn't just come from behind. They'd try to cut them off. Sure enough, they reached a wide clearing where the trees stood far apart, and something felt wrong. Leo stopped suddenly. Hold, he whispered. The guards froze. Vareen moved up beside him. What is it? Leo pointed to the ground. There were no fresh animal tracks here. The forest floor was too quiet. We're walking into something. A moment later, the sound of movement came from all directions, not footsteps, but the shifting of many armored bodies from the tree line. Dark-armored enemy soldiers stepped out, their weapons raised. There were at least a dozen. The group was surrounded. Run, Vareen shouted, pushing Minna toward the far side of the clearing. The guards moved to shield her, but the enemy advanced too quickly. Leo grabbed a fallen branch, swinging it at the nearest soldier to knock the weapon aside. The alien stumbled back, but to more closed in. Minna, go, Leo called, his voice sharp. She hesitated for only a second before Vareen pulled her away. The guards began forcing a path through the enemy line. Leo stayed behind, striking and dodging, trying to buy them more time. It worked for a moment. Minna and most of the guards made it into the trees, but as Leo turned to follow, a heavy force slammed into his side. He hit the ground hard, his breath knocked out of him. Before he could recover, strong hands grabbed his arms and yanked them behind his back. A cold, metallic restraint clamped shut around his wrists. Two enemy soldiers hauled him to his feet. One of them hissed in a language he didn't understand. Another soldier spoke into a small device, likely calling for orders. Leo twisted in their grip, but they were too strong. He caught one last glimpse of Minna disappearing into the trees with Vareen. Before the soldiers shoved him forward, they marched him deeper into the forest, away from the path to the city. After some time, they reached a camp hidden between tall cliffs. Strange, jagged structures stood around a central fire pit, and several more soldiers milled about. Leo was thrown down near a tall figure in heavier armor. Clearly a leader. This alien's armor was dark red, and a jagged scar ran across his face. The leader looked down at Leo. Human, he said through a translator, his voice slow and cold. Why are you here? Leo met his gaze calmly, passing through. Then, I saw you were kidnapping a child. The leader tilted his head. The child is important to us. You should not have interfered. Leo didn't answer. He knew anything he said could be twisted against him. The leader gestured to two guards. They searched Leo's gear, taking his scanner and comms unit. One of them laughed in their alien tongue, holding up Leo's ration pack like it was some strange curiosity. The leader crouched down so his face was close to Leo's. You will tell me where the princess is going. I don't know, Leo replied evenly. The alien studied him for a long moment. We have ways of finding the truth. They dragged Leo to a small cage made of metal and strange glowing wires. The door shut with a heavy click. Inside, there was only a small bench and a container of water. Leo sat down and forced himself to breathe slowly. Panic wouldn't help him. If Minna was safe with Vareen, then his capture was worth it, but he needed to find a way out before the enemy decided to move toward the city. He examined the cage. The wires hummed softly, and when he reached out to touch one, it stung his fingers sharply, definitely electrified. Still, he noticed something important. The power came from a small crystal device mounted at the corner. If he could disable it, the cage might open. Hours passed. The camp grew quieter as some soldiers went out on patrol. Leo watched and listened carefully. He noticed the guard assigned to watch him was getting bored, pacing in slow circles. When the guard turned his back, Leo picked up the metal cup that held water. He poured most of it onto the bench, leaving the cup damp. Then he pressed it against one of the glowing wires. There was a sharp crack and a flash of light. The cage flickered for a second, then the humming stopped. The crystal device sparked and went dark. Leo quickly pushed the door. It swung open. He slipped out, moving silently between the strange tents. He needed a weapon, but first he needed to figure out which direction would take him back toward the city. As he reached the edge of the camp, voices rose behind him. The guard had discovered his escape. Shouts rang out, and the soldiers began to spread out. Leo sprinted into the forest. Branches whipped at his arms and face, but he didn't stop. He could hear the enemy chasing him. Their armored steps heavy and fast. Then, from ahead, a familiar voice called softly, Leo. He looked up to see Vareen emerge from behind a large tree. His weapon ready, Minna stood behind him, eyes wide. "How?" Leo began. "We doubled back when we saw you taken," Vareen said quickly. "No time to talk. Move." The three of them ran together, but the enemy was close. Energy blasts lit up the forest around them. At one point, Minna stumbled, and Leo scooped her into his arms without slowing down. They weaved through thick brush, until the sound of pursuit began to fade. Finally, they stopped to catch their breath. Minna looked at Leo with a mix of relief and guilt. "You stayed behind for me," she said softly. Leo smiled faintly. "That's what you do for friends." Varen's expression was serious. "They will not stop now. They know we are heading for the city. The next move will be theirs." Leo set Minna down and tightened his grip on the small branch he had taken. "As a weapon, then we'll be ready for it," far in the distance. The sound of enemy war horns echoed through the trees. The real battle was still ahead. The forest air was thick and damp as Leo, Vareen, and Princess Minna moved quickly through the shadows. Somewhere far behind them, the enemy war horns echoed, carrying a warning that they were still being hunted. Vareen walked ahead, scanning the path, his weapon always ready. Leo stayed close to Minna, making sure she didn't stumble over the uneven ground. The princess was tired, but she refused to complain. "We can't keep running forever," Leo said quietly to Vareen. "They'll catch up sooner or later." Vareen nodded grimly. "We have to reach the river. If we cross it, the enemy will lose our trail for a while." "How far?" Leo asked. "Half a day's walk," Vareen replied, "if we move without stopping." Leo looked at Minna. "She can't keep that pace for long. She is stronger than she looks," Vareen said, but his tone showed concern. The group pushed forward. The forest was dense here, with tall trees whose roots twisted like giant snakes. Birds with bright feathers darted above them, calling in strange, musical voices. But despite the beauty, every shadow felt dangerous. Leo kept glancing behind them, half expecting to see dark armor moving through the trees. He had learned in his years of flying that danger rarely gave warning. It simply appeared. After an hour, Minna's steps began to slow. She tripped once, catching herself on a root. Leo saw her try to hide her exhaustion, but he could tell she was near her limit. "All right," Leo said, kneeling down. "Climb on." Minna blinked. "You will carry me. You're light, and we'll move faster," he said with a small smile. She hesitated only a moment before climbing onto his back. Leo adjusted his grip and started forward again. Vareen gave him a short nod of approval. They had gone only a short distance when Vareen suddenly raised a hand. "Stop," he whispered. Leo froze. He could hear it too. The faint crunch of leaves from multiple directions. The enemy had circled ahead of them. "They're trying to cut us off," Leo said. Varen's eyes narrowed. "We must change course." He led them down a narrow slope into a darker part of the forest. The trees here were thicker, their branches blocking most of the light. The air was cooler, but there was a smell of damp earth and something faintly metallic. Leo's instincts told him this place had dangers of its own. Still, it was better than walking into an ambush. The ground grew soft under their feet, and soon they came to a wide marsh. Pools of still water reflected the dim light above, and long grasses swayed gently even though there was no wind. "We'll have to cross," Vareen said. Leo eyed the water. "What lives in there?" "Things that prefer not to be seen," Vareen said simply. "Stay in the shallow parts and move quickly." They began crossing, the water rising to their knees. Each step made a sucking sound in the mud. At one point, something long and thin rippled beneath the surface, but it did not come closer. Halfway across, a loud shout echoed behind them. The enemy had found their trail again. Energy blasts struck the water nearby, sending up sprays of steam. "Go," Leo shouted. They splashed through the rest of the marsh and scrambled up the far bank. Vareen turned and fired several shots into the mist, forcing the enemy to slow down. Once they were on solid ground again, they ran without stopping. The forest began to thin, and in the distance, Leo could hear the sound of rushing water. "The river," Vareen said, hope in his voice. But when they reached it, Their relief turned to frustration. The river was wide, its current fast and strong. Fallen branches and bits of debris rushed past on the surface. Minna looked worried. How can we cross? Vareen scanned the riverbank. There's a bridge to the north, but it is likely guarded. Swimming is too risky. Leo's eyes followed the flow of the river. What about drifting? We find something that floats and let the current carry us downstream. Vareen considered it. It would hide our tracks, but the current could be dangerous. It's a better chance than walking into another ambush, Leo said. They searched the bank and found a large fallen log. It was heavy, but with Varen's strength and Leo's help, they rolled it into the water. The log floated well enough to hold all three of them if they stayed balanced. Minna climbed on first, then Leo, then Vareen. The current took them quickly, pulling them away from the shore. The sound of the enemy faded as the river carried them around a bend. For a while, there was only the rush of water and the occasional splash of a fish. Minna leaned against Leo's shoulder, clearly exhausted but trying to stay awake. You're safe for now, Leo told her quietly. After some time, the river slowed, and they guided the log toward a shallow bank. They pulled it onto the shore and rested for a moment. The air here was fresher, and the forest was quieter. We're far enough ahead of them to rest a little, Vareen said. But we cannot stay long, Leo nodded. Scanning the area, he could see the faint outline of mountains in the distance. Which way to the city? East, Vareen replied. 2 days if we avoid trouble. Leo gave a short laugh. Avoid trouble. In this place, Vareen allowed himself a small smile. One can hope. They began moving east, keeping near the river for fresh water, but staying far enough from the bank to avoid being seen from a distance. That night, they camped under a rock overhang. Leo kept watch while Vareen and Minna slept. The stars here were brighter than those near human space. And Leo found himself wondering how many other worlds like this were out there, and how many times humans would find themselves caught in someone else's war. A rustle in the trees drew his attention. He reached for a branch, ready to defend, but it was only a small animal with glowing eyes. It watched him for a moment, then vanished into the darkness. Leo exhaled slowly. Too many eyes in this forest, he muttered. At dawn, they set off again. They made good progress until midday when they reached a steep ridge. Climbing it was slow, especially with Minna, but the hike gave them a clear view of the land ahead and a worrying sight. Smoke was rising from the direction of the city. Varen's expression grew tense. The enemy has already begun there. Attack! Leo looked at Minna. Then we moved faster. The ridge path wound down into another stretch of forest. Every step now felt heavier. Not from tiredness, but from the knowledge that time was running out. The enemy had taken the princess. Once, they would do anything to take her again. And if they reached the city in full force before Leo and Vareen got back, saving Minna would mean nothing. The entire kingdom could fall. Leo adjusted his pack, glanced at Vareen, and said firmly, "Let's get her home." The next morning, the sky above the alien city was a bright mix of gold and blue. For Rian, it was still strange to see the twin suns rise together. On Earth, there had been only one sun. But here, everything seemed brighter, more alive. Rian stood near the landing platform of the royal palace. He had been told that today he would travel with Queen Arya and her little daughter Lyra to the capital city. It was there the queen wanted to honor him before the Grand Council. He looked over the platform and saw the large silver transport ship waiting. It was smooth, round, and glowing faintly at the edges. The alien engineers called it a sky whisper. Rian had flown many ships in his life, but this design was unlike anything humans had made. Queen Arya approached with Lyra, holding her hand. Lyra's face lit up when she saw Rian. "You came," she said happily, running toward him. "I wouldn't miss it," Rian replied with a smile. Arya gave him a calm nod. "The council will want to hear your story themselves, and I want them to see what kind of person you are." Rian noticed her tone. It was more personal than before. He had saved Lyra because it was the right thing to do, but he realized the queen was treating him as more than just a visitor now. Boarding the Sky Whisperer, the inside of the Sky Whisperer was spacious. and bright, soft lights glowed from the walls, and the seats were shaped to adjust to whoever sat in them. Rion had never been so comfortable inside a ship. As the Sky Whisper rose into the sky, Lyra pressed her face against the window. "Look, Rion, you can see the river from here." He looked out and saw the silver ribbon of water winding between green hills. Beyond that were the mountains, sharp and high, glowing under the suns. "This world is beautiful," Rion said. Arya looked at him. "It is, and it has been safe for centuries. But the attack on my daughter shows that danger is closer than I thought." Rion understood her worry. The enemy ship that had tried to take Lyra had been fast and silent. If he hadn't been in the area, things could have ended very differently. Midway travel halfway to the capital, the Sky Whisper shook slightly. Rion's instincts as a pilot made him tense. "That's not normal turbulence," he said. An alien guard moved quickly to the front, speaking to the pilot in their native language. Rion caught only a few words but understood enough. Another ship was following them. Queen Arya's eyes narrowed. "Not again," Rion stood. "I can help. Let me see your controls." The pilot hesitated, but Arya nodded. "Let him." The Sky Whisper's control panel was smooth, with symbols glowing in soft blue. Rion quickly learned how to adjust the thrusters. He guided the ship into a sharper climb, making it harder for anyone to follow. On the display, a small red dot followed. Then it was the pursuer. Rion flipped to manual controls and sent the Sky Whisper into a sudden dive before spinning upward. The enemy dropped out of sight. The alien pilot looked shocked. How did you do that?" Rion grinned. "Just an old trick from my flying days." Lyra clapped her hands. "You made them go away." Arrival at the capital city was massive, built on a series of floating platforms above a shimmering lake. Towers curved upward like the petals of flowers, and bridges stretched between them in graceful arcs. Ships moved quietly through the air, their hulls reflecting the sunlight. As they landed, a group of royal guards in silver armor greeted them. Behind the guards stood a large crowd of aliens, curious to see the human who had saved their princess. The queen walked forward, Lyra by her side, and Rion followed. Murmurs spread through the crowd. He heard words like brave, outsider, and protector. Inside the main council hall, 12 high seats stood in a circle. The Grand Council. Members wore robes marked with gold patterns. In the center was a small crystal podium, glowing faintly. Facing the Grand Council, the Queen raised her voice. "Honored Council, I bring before you a man from another world. He saved my daughter's life, risking his own in the process." All eyes turned to Rion. He felt the weight of their gaze but stood tall. "I didn't do it for reward," he said simply. "I did it because no child should be in danger." The council leader, an elder alien with deep silver eyes, leaned forward. "You fought against a ship faster than yours. You succeeded when even our patrols could not. Tell us how." Rion gave a short explanation of his maneuvers, keeping it simple. He did not boast. The elder nodded. "Courage and skill, rare in one so far from home." The queen stepped closer to the podium. "I asked the council to recognize him as a friend of the crown." A ripple of agreement moved through the hall. A private conversation after the meeting. Arya asked Rion to walk with her on one of the palace balconies. The view stretched far over the floating city, the sun's now dipping low, painting the sky in warm colors. "You have earned the trust of my people," she said. "But there are still those who wish us harm. I fear this is only the beginning." Rion looked at her. "Then I'll help as much as I can, until I have to return home. I'm with you." She smiled faintly. "You speak like one of us already." Lyra ran up to them, holding a small crystal. "Rion, this is for you. Mama says it's a gift of thanks." Rion accepted the crystal. It glowed warmly in his hand. "What does it do?" he asked. Arya's eyes held a strange light. "You will see when the time is right." The enemy ships moved like dark shadows across the cold night of space. Their engines burned red, and their weapons glowed like dangerous stars. Rion sat in the cockpit, his hands tight on the controls. His heart was steady, but his eyes were sharp. He knew this fight was not just for himself, it was for Leora. the Queen's little daughter he had saved, and for the alien homeworld that now trusted him, Rin. They are coming from the North Ark. A voice called over the comms. It was General Varun, leader of the Queen's defense fleet. I see them, Rin replied. His voice was calm, but his mind was already running ahead, making plans. He studied the enemy formation. It was fast, aggressive, but predictable. They wanted to break through the main defense line and land troops on the planet. The Queen's ships were brave, but they were not as agile as Rin's fighter. His human-built craft was made for speed and precision, something the enemy didn't expect here. He decided he would not wait for orders. He would strike first. Rin pushed the thrusters forward, and his ship shot into the dark space like an arrow. The enemy saw him coming but thought it was a foolish lone attack. That was their mistake. He weaved between enemy fire, twisting and rolling. His training as a pilot on Earth had prepared him for impossible moves, and here, in the open space, he had room to use them all. Two enemy ships tried to flank him, but Rin cut his engines for a moment, letting them overshoot, and then fired his cannons. The first ship burst into flames, the second spun out of control. Human pilot has taken down to already, someone shouted over the comms. Cheers followed. But Rin didn't slow down. He knew this was only the start. The enemy fleet adjusted. A squadron of 5 ships broke away and came straight for him. This time, they moved in tight formation, making it harder for him to break through. Rin smiled to himself. He had seen this trick before. He dove straight at them, making it look like he was going to crash into their leader. At the last second, he rolled his ship to the side, firing missiles into their flank. The explosion ripped through their formation, sending 3 of the 5 ships spinning away. The other two tried to retreat, but Rin chased them down, forcing them into the line of fire of the Queen's defense turrets. Good work, Rin. General Varun's voice came again. You're keeping them off balance. But Rin's sensors picked up something strange. Far behind the main battle, there was a larger ship. It was heavily armored, moving slowly, but Rin recognized the type. It was a command ship. If they destroyed it, the enemy fleet would lose coordination. He opened a private channel to the Queen. Your Majesty, I see their command vessel. If I take it out, we can end this battle faster. The Queen's voice was calm but full of trust. Do what you think is right, Rin. We believe in you. With that, Rin cut away from the main fight and sped toward the giant ship. Enemy fighters tried to intercept him, but his speed and sharp turns made it hard for them to lock on. The closer he got, the more dangerous it became. The command ship had heavy guns, and each shot could tear his fighter apart. He zigzagged between blasts, feeling the vibration of near hits shake his ship. He targeted the ship's main communications array first. 1 missile, 2 missiles both struck true. Sparks and fire erupted from the array, and the enemy ships began to move in a less organized way. Now, he had to finish it. He locked onto the engine core of the command ship. His ship's computer gave a warning if he fired at this range. The blast could hit him too. Rin thought of Leora's small smile, of the Queen's faith in him, and of the strange beauty of this alien world he had come to care for. He decided it was worth the risk. He launched all his remaining missiles and turned hard, pushing his ship to its limits. Behind him, the command ship exploded in a bright, silent burst of fire. The shockwave caught his fighter, sending it tumbling. His vision blurred, alarms screamed, and for a moment, he thought he was going to lose control. But he fought the controls, steadying the ship just in time. The comms were full of shouting and cheers. The enemy was retreating. Rin, you did it. General Varun's voice was filled with relief. The enemy is breaking off. Rin allowed himself a small smile. Then let's make sure they don't come back. The defense fleet chased the enemy until they were far from the planet's orbit. Only then did Rin return to the palace hangar. As he stepped out of his damaged ship, the Queen herself was waiting. Leora ran forward, her little arms wrapping around his leg in a grateful hug. You saved us again, the Queen said softly. Our people will remember this day. Rin, still catching his breath, simply replied, I was just doing what needed to be done. But deep inside, He knew that the bond between him and this world had grown stronger than ever, and he also knew the final chapter of this story had not yet been written. The war had ended, the stars above were calm again, and the sound of battle no longer echoed in the cold of space. Ryun sat in his small pilot room, looking at the fading trails of the alien fleet that was now heading back to their homeworld. His ship was old and scratched, but it had survived the chaos, so had he. A soft tone came through his communicator. The voice of the alien queen filled the room. Calm and warm. Pilot Ryun, the council is waiting for you in the royal chamber. Please come. Ryun sighed and checked his reflection in the small mirror. He was not a man who enjoyed formal meetings, but after saving the queen's little daughter, everyone looked at him differently. He had become more than just a soldier, he had become a friend to the alien people. He guided his ship down to the grand city on the alien homeworld, the capital, shine under to suns, with crystal towers and bridges made of light stone. Crowds gathered as his small craft landed on the royal platform. The aliens, tall and graceful, bowed slightly as he passed inside the royal chamber. The queen stood in front of a long silver table. Beside her was her daughter, safe and smiling, holding a small flower in her tiny hands. Ryun's chest felt warm at the sight. Ryun of Earth, the queen said, her voice carrying both pride and respect. You came into our darkest hour, risking your life for someone not of your kind. You protected the most precious life of our people when even our strongest could not. For this, our gratitude will never fade. She raised her hand, and the guards brought forward a large chest. Inside it were gold-like coins, shining crystals, and rare alien metals. The wealth was beyond anything Ryun had ever seen. But before he could speak, the queen continued. This is not your true reward. Ryun blinked. Not my reward. The queen smiled. Your bravery changed the way our people see your kind for centuries. Humans were just names in our history books, distant and unknown. But now, because of you, we will sign an alliance with Earth. No more fear. No more distrust. From this day forward, our worlds will stand as one. The chamber filled with applause. Ryun felt his throat tighten. An alliance between species was worth more than all the gold in the galaxy. The queen's daughter stepped forward and handed him the small flower. For you, she said softly, you saved me. He knelt and took it gently. Thank you, little one. That night, Ryun stood on the high balcony of the royal palace. The stars seemed brighter than ever. The alien queen joined him. You have given us peace, Ryun, she said. That is the most incredible reward anyone could give. Ryun looked out into space and smiled. He had not just saved the life he had changed, the future of two worlds, and somewhere deep in his heart, he knew that was worth more than anything.